Welcome to Aging Flipped, where it's all about empowering women in their grandmotherhood years. Whether you're already a grandmother, hope to one day be a grandmother, or soon to be a grandmother, empowering you to overcome challenges and live your best life. My hope is by being here listening to this podcast, you leave more inspired and filled with the possibilities for this season of your life. I'm Debi Talbert, your host. I'm a wife, a mom to 4 adults, a grandmother to 5, a retired flight attendant turned professional life coach. If you are here to grow, I can help you. Let's go. Hey there, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the podcast for the women in their grandmotherhood years. I am so excited that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about and moving into the part of the Aging Flip flight plan that has to do with the fuel systems. However, before I get into that, I do just want to give you a little bit of a recap inside episodes 112, which was the whole synopsis, was the cockpit as well. And then 113 was all about the engines. And then if you want to know all the parts of the flight plan, you can hear all the little snippets about all the parts in episode 111. This will still make sense to you. However, I do want to encourage you to go and take a listen to those also. And today, so as I said, we're going to dive into the fuel system, because no matter how dialed in you are for your thoughts, as well as your emotions, without the right kind of fuel for you, you're going to actually stall out, feel sluggish, and maybe even completely burn out. And this is the last thing that you actually want for yourself in your life, right? So the fuel itself is actually the fuel system and how you're nourished. And it consists of 3 components. So it's your physical body, which is through food, movement, hydration, and rest. And then we have our spiritual self, which is through connection, meaning, stillness, and faith. And then we have our energetic capacity. And this is through how you manage your time, your attention, and your emotional bandwidth. And that is the fuel system. So it's a system which includes your body, your spirit, and your energy. And it isn't that everything needs to be perfect. It's about finding for yourself, experimenting, and finding for yourselves the right kind of fuels for your current version of you, for who you are today as the woman in her grandmotherhood years, as well as who you want to be as your future self, that life that you actually want to have, the version of the you that you want to be now with all of your extra miles, so to speak, as well as all your amazing wisdom. So first I'm going to cover a little bit about your physical fuel. And in order to do that, I'm going to take you into the hospital hallways and the hallway winds with me. Recently, a couple weeks ago, I ended up in the hospital. And I was in the hospital with an NG tube up my nose and down my throat, as well as an IV in my arm. Yes, totally not gorgeous. I'm telling you, it was quite the sight to see. I know there's no pictures of it. And yet, I was moving. I could get up without help. I could walk the hospital halls on my own, which was a part of being allowed to be able to be sent to the point where the doctor said I could leave the hospital. And why was this? Because I had been all along for the past 18 months or so building up my strength. Slowly, in little tiny habit blocks, quietly and consistently, I was doing that for myself. But here's the underlying struggle that I see in many of you that are in your grandmotherhood years. We're told that to take care of ourselves, and we're told this, it all has to do with our weight and our appearance. But we're rarely taught that we really want to take care of our mobility, our energy, and how we actually can easily move and create movement as we're aging. And that hospital stay for me really reiterated and showed me how important it is for to have our physical body in the movement, not just what we look like on the outside, but really from the fitness. And so what really matters is when you focus on fitness. And what that means for you is that you'll give yourself the freedom, you'll give yourself the dignity of being able to move yourself, even in those lifey moments, without needing permission or asking for help or being apologetic about it. Where even if maybe because yes, when I first went into the hospital and the first day I was there, I definitely needed help. However, what I noticed is that I needed far less help than I thought I might because of my physical strength. When you allow yourself to focus on the fitness side, you're actually creating freedom for yourself. When you fuel your body with intention, you're able to move through your days with less friction. You have less aches and less pains and less stiffness. And you're able to bounce back faster when life throws you those curveballs in the hospital. And you're also able to build up this trust in your own body and in your body's ability to help you get from point A to point B. And then what can you actually do different? You might be thinking, oh, okay, I get it. That makes sense. And I can tell by your story and what happened to you that it's possible I might not be able to do the same thing because I haven't been focusing on my strength up until now. So what can you actually do differently at this point for this particular part of really your physical fuel? And what you can ask yourself is the way I'm eating, moving, and resting, is that actually giving me energy or is it stealing it? And I want you to do this, and I want to encourage you to do this from the space of curiosity and self-love instead of the space of judging and intruding on yourself. Really just be curious, put on your scientific goggles, and if you could see me, I don't really have the camera on today, but I would be putting on my lab glasses, right? So I really want to encourage you to do this with lab glasses on, with a scientific mindset. Is the way I'm eating, moving, and resting giving me energy or stealing it? So really just get curious about it and write that down for yourself and get curious and think about it. And this isn't about making yourself change everything. This is just giving you some insight to think about. Now we're going to move over into the spiritual fuel. And this really helped me when I was in the hospital also. So one night in the hospital bed, the machines are all beeping. My room is dim. There's a roommate over there. And I was really feeling a little bit kind of like raw and scared and totally disconnected simply because of everything that was happening around me. And I used what I call the oxygen mask principle. And I really just took a breath and I slowed down a little bit. I almost like the oxygen mask, I visualized like I was on the airplane and the oxygen mask kind of dropped down. And I paused and took in a breath. And then I whispered a prayer. And for me, suddenly I remembered that I'm not doing this alone. And that, my friends, is spiritual fuel. That's where you're able to realize whether it is that you spiritually believe in God or something else, you're giving your spirit, your inner soul, and your spirit within you the space to know that you're not alone. And so this is the underlying struggle for many of the women that I work with, is that you pour yourself out into others and you care for so many other people aside from yourself. You're not practiced at learning how to care for yourself and put your own needs first. And then you're showing up for everyone else. But deep down, you're actually feeling untethered. And it's because you've lost that connection with something deeper. The spiritual depletion that you're having, sometimes it shows up in you feel kind of flat when life is actually fine, but it just feels very flat and not very motivating for you. And you really can't figure out why does life feel so meh, right? And you're looking for comfort in things that will never actually give you the comfort. Like, so you're looking for things in comfort in things like scrolling social media, full food, alcohol, shopping. So you're looking for things in comfort outside yourself, and you're forgetting what's in it for you is when you can restore your spiritual fuel, you really get reconnected. You find this sense of peace, even in those moments of uncertainty, like when I was in the hospital and that uncertainty that was happening, and it was all hitting me all at once, everything that was going on for me. And then I took that moment to slow down, breathe, kind of pray, and then pay attention. And then that's really what let me get grounded again. And so as you're remembering about your spiritual fuel, you're going to be able to ground yourself again, and you're going to be able to be more centered, and things around you will not feel as chaotic. It'll be, even within the chaos, you'll have this inner sense and peace and calm. So if that is kind of resonating with you, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds just like me, then what you can do differently today is simply take 5 minutes with a no phone, no podcast, yeah, even this one, and you can just sit and breathe. Or you could read something sacred, like if the Bible has meaning to you, or some other form of spiritual book has meaning to you, you could sit and breathe and read that. Or you can sit and breathe and look at a tree, or sit and breathe and look at the sunset. Look at something in nature. And what you'll start to notice is that is your spirit, the spirit within you. It's being fed. And you will notice yourself having a little bit more trust and a little bit more ease and a little bit more confidence because your inner spirit is being fed. And the third area that is within the fuel of the fuel system, right, for within the flight plan is the energy fuel, and this ties and is related to your leaks and your boundaries, so to speak. And so before the hospital, I'd had a week where I couldn't keep anything straight. I was preparing to go. The reason why, and I was gone, and this whole hospital event happened while I was out of town at a mastermind retreat that I was hosting. Luckily, I was with my amazing friend, and she supported me and helped me all along the way. But that week before I went on this retreat, I had a week where it was tough for me to keep everything. It was hard for me to keep everything straight. And my ADHD was really full on happening. And I was missing appointments, tasks were getting half done. I felt like I was in like this brain fog kind of a thing. And it wasn't really laziness. It was what I call leakage. And my attention was scattered all across everyone else's emergencies, everything else. And my energy was on empty. And I had a bunch of energy leaks that I really wasn't even aware of because I was so busy trying to prepare and do things for everyone else. And all this leakage was happening for me. And I wasn't utilizing my own boundaries. And so I felt like this untetheredness and that I was doing. And the underlying struggle, it was really not a lack of motivation, or even a lack of productivity. It was really just me not having margin in my day. And what I mean by that is that if you imagine like you have this write on a piece of paper and you go all the way to the edges and you fill up the whole page and you just scribble all over it and it gets really messy and there's no blank space on it. And that's kind of what it's like inside your brain when you don't have any margin. And the margin is the white space in your day. It's the space where nothing is expected of you, where your brain can breathe, where your body can exhale, and your spirit can actually rest. And without it, even the easiest of things can feel extremely hard. And so what really benefits you, and where you get the benefit of really understanding this part of your fuel and the energetic bandwidth, is that you bounce back faster from overwhelm. So really, as I'm thinking about it and sharing all this here, it makes total sense why that possibility of me ending up in the hospital, because of where I was energetic-wise and not having any white space and all that stuff happening for me, it makes a little sense why that might have been happening. And yes, it was a physical thing, but really understanding it just really makes a difference in what can happen when you don't allow yourself any white space and everything gets very chaotic. But yeah, you're able, when you understand that and you work towards that and making the space in your life for some white space, you're able to bounce back from overwhelm way quicker. You also remember how to enjoy your life and to be in the pleasurable moments of your life. So if that is kind of resonating with you, and that might be what's happening, some of the things you can do a little bit differently today is kind of look at your schedule and ask yourself, where am I leaking energy? Put your brain to work on where am I leaking energy so that it can start to get creative and give you a solution. And where can I create a little margin, some of that blank space, so to speak, for yourself? And this might be leaving 10 minutes between tasks. It might be learning to practice saying no and setting boundaries. And doing this is a skill set without guilt. And that's a skill set we learn inside Aging Flip the Playground. And it might be stepping outside instead of picking up your phone and scrolling, like stepping outside and just taking a minute in nature. It doesn't really need to be a vacation, so to speak. It just simply means little pockets and moments of white space and space in your day where your brain and your body and your soul can have a chance to breathe. Because when all of these together, and so this part of the flight plan and what you learn how to do inside Aging Flip the Playground is really mastering these areas and focusing on where you might need within your fuel system, where you might need to nourish whether it's your physical body or it's your spiritual self, or it's that creating that white space in your energetic fuel, and you're learning how to do boundaries. Those are all of the skill sets that you actually learn how to do. So right now, what I do want to do is actually tell you a little bit about my someday thing that turned into a today, like a turning pivotal moment for me. Because I really want to be real with you, even with all the mindset that I've been doing and the work that I have done and the strength training that I had been doing, the building up the muscle and how it was able to help support me through consistently being able to move at the hospital and be able to get out of the hospital much quicker. There's still an area in my life that I kept avoiding. And it was that area of weight loss. And it wasn't that I didn't care about the weight I had gained after a surgical event in 2020. It was just that I had this desire parked in this maybe later. It's like it was parked at the long-term parking lot at the airport. And I hadn't abandoned it, but I wasn't really thinking about it. And I wasn't going back to get it anytime soon. And that was me. And I kept circling the idea and saying things like, it would be nice to someday maybe get rid of these things. And maybe after things settle down, I'll focus on that. And eventually I'll figure that out. And those were kind of the thoughts that I had going on in my head. So that was me leaving myself in that someday mentality. While I was on the retreat and at the event, in the retreat park, not the hospital park, lots of pictures were being taken. I happened to see this one particular photo of myself. And there was something instantly in that moment that shifted inside me. Not from this space of shame, but from this space of clarity. And I realized this is no longer a someday thing. This has now been moved into a today thing. Because I want to feel lighter. I want to feel stronger. And I want to feel more energized. And not someday and not in 5 years. I want it now in this body that I have right now in this chapter of my life. So I actually made a decision. And that's where the difference comes in, is when you decide on something, then you commit. And even when things are uncomfortable, you follow through on things. And so I've created a project. I'm calling it Project Fly 129, which is because that's the number that I want to win. And I just like to call things projects, and the fly stands for first love yourself. And just many of you have heard me talk about that term, fly, first love yourself, on other podcast episodes. And so my project is I'm doing this and achieving that number by Labor Day. It's really through brain-based coaching, compassionate and real support. And I'm doing it, I'm inviting you to do it alongside with me inside the new community that I've created, and it's called Aging Flip the Playground. And so if you want to join me, if that's your desire, where you have something, and maybe it's not your weight. There are many other resources inside. This weight one is a bonus that's inside, and where you'll have a weight course, you'll have the weight loss course and exactly what I'm doing and how I'm following it and the mindset tools that go along with it. And then I'll also be sharing with you my own behind the scenes journey of achieving this goal myself inside the playground. And so if you have got a desire that you've been sitting on in your own, and it's that maybe later and it's parked over in that parking lot, in the long-term parking lot edge of your mind, so to speak, and you've been waiting for the right time or a little more motivation, then this is your shine to bring that into the view, to take it out of the maybe later part and bring it over into I'm going to move this project into my right now mentality. And I invite you to come join me inside the playground. It's a coaching space I've created for grandmothers, current, soon to be or hope to be, who are done waiting. You're done waiting to feel good in your bodies. You're done waiting to feel proud of your energy. And you're done waiting to make this season one that you actually love living. And this is a limited time offer for the women who want to drop what's been weighing them down, both literally and mentally. You want to fuel your future with clarity, confidence, and curiosity. And you want to rewrite your story about aging that you've been told, because you want to live into a new narrative on purpose. And so this is who this community is for. If you're interested in that and you want to find out about it, it's at agingflip.com/coaching. You can also find the direct link to that inside the show notes on this episode. So you can even click on that while you're listening. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to decide that you're done circling the parking lot. So let's do this together and move your thing from maybe later into right now. And I'll be back again next week. Have an awesome rest of your week. Thank you for spending time with me today. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you've been circling your own someday desire, it's time to bring it out of that long-term parking lot and back into your view. Join me inside the playground. This is the community where grandmothers, current, soon to be, or someday hope to be, are building strength, self-trust, and a future you're excited to live. Tap on the link in the show notes or head over to agingflip.com/coaching. You get all the details over there. I just want you to know this is the exact right time for you. I'll see you next time.